The plasma bolt seared through the humid air of Zorath Prime's outpost plaza, a violet lance that punched into Latin Jax Harlan's chest with the crack of thunder. The acrid tang of ionized flesh mingled with the metallic bite of rain-slicked ferrocrete, and Jax staggered back against the humming shield wall of the colonial tribunal. Pain bloomed like shattered glass in his ribs. A white-hot supernova that should have buckled his knees flooded his vision with black spots. Instead he straightened, blood bubbling from the ragged entry wound staining his scarred tactical vest crimson. The alien enforcers, hulking Krellix with chitinous exoskeletons glinting under the storm lamps, froze in their advance, their multifaceted eyes flickering in unison like faulty holoscreens. Jax Harlan laughed. It started low, a gravelly rumble from deep in his gut, vibrating through the downpour that plastered his cropped black hair to his forehead. Then it built, raw and unhinged, echoing off the jagged obsidian spires of the outpost. Water streamed down his stubbled jaw, mixing with the blood trickling from his lips, but his gray eyes, sharp as monomolecular blades, locked on the lead enforcer. Commander Vexar, the Krellix's iron-fisted arbiter, recoiled as if slapped, his mandibles clicking in bewildered fury. The other three hulking brutes in iridescent armor, their pulse rifles humming with residual charge, shifted uneasily, claws scraping against rain-sodden holopads etched with Zorath's marital edicts. You mock death." Vexar's voice rasped like grinding gravel, translated through the neural implant buzzing faintly in Jax's skull. His compound eyes narrowed, reflecting the flickering aurora of Zorath's twin moons piercing the storm clouds. The commander had presided over 100 such refusals. Aliens and off-worlders alike dragged before the tribunal for defying the Krellix Concordance's sacred bonds. Marriages weren't unions here. They were chains forged to bind colonies to the Empire's sprawling hive-mind. Jax, a lone human surveyor from the fractured Terran remnant, had stumbled into this viper's nest 3 cycles ago, mapping mineral veins for a desperate Earth resupply run, refusing Vexar's offer to wed his daughter. A political snare to claim human tech should have ended in quiet erasure. Not this. Jax wiped blood from his mouth with the back of a trembling hand, the laugh fading to a wheezing grin that split his pain-lined face. His boots squelched in the pooling rainwater, each breath a firestorm in his lungs, but he wouldn't kneel. Not for these insectoid overlords who'd glassed 3 human outposts already, all under the guise of cultural integration. The stakes clawed at him. One wrong word, and his survey data, Earth's last hope for rare isotopes, would vaporize with him. But defiance, that was the spark humanity clung to, a feral fire no bolt could quench. Mock. Jax spat, voice hoarse but laced with that infuriating Terran drawl thick as engine grease. He leaned forward, ignoring the fresh gush of blood soaking his fatigues, the way his vision edged with silver. Nah, that's just what you get when your justice tickles. The nearest enforcer snarled, mandibles flaring, but Vexar raised a clawed appendage, silencing the pack. Curiosity warred with rage in the commander's pheromonal haze, a sour ozone tang that Jax's implant rendered as unease. Humans were anomalies, soft-fleshed, short-lived, yet they'd clawed back from extinction wars that felled elder species. Why laugh at oblivion? Was it madness, a weapon? Vexar's optics whirred, scanning Jax's vitals, heart rate steady, adrenaline spiking not in terror but exhilaration. Your kind fractures under less. Explain this resilience, or the next bolt claims your neural core. The concordance demands obedience. Jax's grin sharpened, rain carving rivulets down his cheeks like war paint. He could feel the implant's data cache pulsing against his temple, a digital heartbeat syncing with his own. One laugh had bought seconds. One truth might ignite a war. But as thunder rolled, masking the distant whine of incoming dropships, he wondered if Vexar heard it too, the faint, defiant rhythm of a species that refused to break. And then, Jax laughed again. The interrogation chamber's air recyclers hummed a monotonous dirge, sucking away the plaza's storm scent and replacing it with the sterile bite of ozone and antiseptic gel. Jax Harlan slumped in the restraint chair, wrists bound by humming mag cuffs that pulsed against his skin like insistent insect bites. The plasma wound in his chest had been crudely sealed with a dermal patch, Krellix field med, efficient but agonizing, sending phantom jolts through his nerves with every breath. Dim lumen strips cast elongated shadows across the ferro-alloy walls, etched with faint claw marks from prior guests. Outside, the rain had eased to a persistent drizzle, pattering against the viewport like impatient fingers. But inside, the silence stretched taut as a tripwire. Commander Vexar loomed across the scarred interrogation slab, his chitinous frame casting a multifaceted glare from the overhead scanner array. The commander's mandibles flexed rhythmically, a tick betraying the turmoil beneath his armored calm. Pheromones laced the air. A sharp, acrid tang Jax's implant translated as frustrated curiosity laced with dread. Vexar wasn't just an enforcer. He was the Concordance's scalpel on Zorath Prime, tasked with binding fractious colonies to the hive's unyielding web. Humans, with their erratic alliances and forbidden tech scraps, were a persistent itch. Marrying one off to his lineage would have neutralized the threat, secured those isotope maps for the Empire's warforges. Instead, this aberration. You laugh at dissolution, Vexar grated, his voice a synthesized burr through the implant link, each word laced with the subtle vibration of subsonic threats. He leaned closer, compound eyes whirring as they dissected Jax's vitals on the hovering holoscreen. Heart rate elevated but steady, neural spikes not from agony, but something akin to joy. Terrans fracture like brittle alloy under our rights. Pain is the great leveler, yet you persist unbroken. Why? Jax met the gaze without flinching, the magcuffs' hum vibrating up his arms like a second pulse. His mind raced. Earth's remnant clung to outposts like this one by threads of defiance, scavenging Zorath's veins for the isotopes that fueled their ragtag fleet. Lose the data in his implant and a billion souls starved in the void, but reveal too much, and Vexar would vivisect the truth from him. The laugh? That had been instinct, a raw bark against the Empire's boot. Humanity's oldest weapon, born from trenches on scorched worlds where surrender meant erasure. He shifted, the dermal patch tugging like barbed wire, and forced a crooked smile. Leveler? That's cute. Back home we call it Tuesday. You shoot first, ask questions later. Classic Krellix hospitality. Vexar's claws scraped the slab, carving faint furrows that sparked under the lumens. Motivation burned in his posture. The Concordance teetered on overextension, human uprisings nibbling at supply lines like vermin. This Terran wasn't just a surveyor. Intel whispers suggested he carried encrypted relays from the Remnant's shadow net. Break him and Vexar rose in the hive hierarchy, fail in his brood-faced ritual excision. Insolence masks fragility, he countered, activating the probe arm with a flick of his appendage. It descended like a mechanical scorpion, needle tip gleaming, laced with neurotoxin to peel back mental veils. Your kind hides behind jests, but the hive sees truth. The marriage rite binds worlds, refusal invites the void. Yet you revel in it. A glitch? Augmented flesh? Or is this the Terran delusion of supremacy? The probe hovered inches from Jax's temple, its emitter whining to life, a low keen that set his teeth on edge, stirring memories of cryo-sleep horrors and the implant's cold fire during installation. Sweat beaded on his brow, not from fear, but the creeping violation. The device would map his synapses, unearth the data cache buried in recursive code. Jax's chest tightened, the wound throbbing in rhythm with his resolve. Earthlings weren't unbreakable. They were stubborn, piecing victory from shrapnel and spite. Vexar's underlings, two silent sentinels in the shadows, their armor humming faintly, leaned in, mandibles twitching with vicarious hunger. One, a subordinate named Krellix, hissed softly, his voice a wet rasp. Commander, the scans show anomalous endorphins, as if he welcomes the breach. Jax's laugh bubbled up again, shorter this time, laced with a wheeze that echoed the chamber's hum. It wasn't madness. It was armor, forged in the Remnant's forge ships where laughter drowned out the screams of the dying. Delusion? Nah, supremacy's your game, chaining folks to your bug brains for unity. Me? I just prefer my chains metaphorical. He locked eyes with Vexar, the probe's tip brushing his skin cold as void kiss. Tension coiled like a spring. One surge and the data spilled. One word, and rebellion ignited. But as the wine peaked, Jax felt the implant stir. A hidden subroutine, humanity's ace, whispering protocols long dormant. Vexar's mandibles snapped shut, then witnessed the hive's clarity. The probe plunged. Jax's vision fractured into static, but through the haze he glimpsed the commander's optics widen, not in triumph, but dawning horror. The laughter wasn't a mask. It was the key. The probe's needle breached Jax Harlan's temple like a venomous barb, unleashing a cascade of synaptic fire that clawed through his skull. Neural pathways ignited in fractal bursts, vision splintering like shattered crysteel. The acrid reek of burning hulls from Earth's fall, the hollow echo of comrades' final gasps in vacuum breaches, the cold certainty of a species teetering on extinction's brink. Jax's body arched against the mag cuffs, restraints groaning under the strain, sweat-slicked skin prickling as if swarmed by phantom insects. The chamber's lumen strips flickered erratically, casting Vexar's chitinous form in strobe-like shadows that danced like specters across the walls. Outside, the drizzle had thickened to a relentless tattoo, muffling the distant thrum of patrol drones slicing through the mist-shrouded spires. Inside Jax's mind, the invasion raged, a digital maelstrom where Krellix code tendrils snaked through memory vaults, probing for the isotope cache like scavengers at a corpse. But the laugh, it was the fulcrum. Not madness, not augmentation, but a conditioned reflex etched into every remnant soldier during the Void War's psyche forging. Laughter as weapon, a neural disruptor, flooding endorphins to scramble invasive scans, turning pain into probabilistic noise. Jax clung to it, forcing another ragged chuckle through gritted teeth, a guttural defiance that reverberated in the ether, glitching the probe's interface with erratic feedback loops. His vision swam with overlaid hologlyphs, Vexar's query code fracturing against firewalls woven from human desperation. Vexar recoiled, mandibles splaying in a rare display of alarm, his pheromonal haze spiking into bitter alarm, translated by Jax's implant as the sharp tang of overbrewed synth calf laced with rust. The commander's optics whirred frantically, holoscreen jittering with corrupted data streams, fragmented star charts, whispers of remnant fleet signatures ghosting the Zorath system's outer rim. Impossible, Vexar hissed, claws raking the slab deeper, sparks skittering like fireflies. His motivation twisted visibly, ambition warring with the hive's ingrained dread of the unpredictable. Krellix thrived on order, their collective mind a vast unerring lattice. Humans were chaos incarnate, their psyches jagged anomalies that could unravel protocols from within. This one, laughing through the breach, threatened not just his ascent but the Concordance's fragile grip on the fringe worlds. Your mirth, it warps the weave. A psi tactic? Remnant sorcery? Jax's head lolled forward, blood-flecked spittle flecking the slab, but his gray eyes burned with feral clarity amid the haze. The dermal patch on his chest itched like a fresh scar, a reminder of fragility. Humans weren't invincible. They were adaptive, cobbling resilience from the wreckage of lost colonies. He drew a shuddering breath, the chamber's recyclers pulling away the metallic tang of his exertion, and rasped, "Sorcery? That's your word for survival, Bugman. We laughed when your kind glassed New Terra, watched our skies burn, and still plotted the next jump. It's not power, it's spite. Keeps the dark at bay." The words hung heavy, laced with the moral grit of choices long buried. Jax had volunteered for the implant, trading neural purity for data armor, knowing one glitch could erase him, but surrender? That was the true void. Krix, the subordinate sentinel, edged forward, his lesser mandibles quivering with opportunistic hunger. Younger, hungrier for hive favor, his armor scarred from fringe skirmishes where human jests had cost him a clutch brood. "Commander, the feeds show anomalies. Relay pings from the outer belt. This Terran's jest, it masks a beacon." Vexar's claw snapped out, pinning Krix in place, the air thickening with authoritative pheromones that Jax's implant rendered as choking smog. Internal conflict etched the commander's frame. Dissect deeper, risk hive sanction for unleashing a signal flare? Or withdraw and let this human anomaly fester into legend? "You court annihilation," Vexar growled at Jax, deactivating the probe with a venomous flick, the arm retracting with a whine, leaving Jax's temple weeping a thin rivulet of blood. The right was mercy, a bond to elevate your primitive kin. Refusal invites the call, yet your laughter, it summons shadows. Jax slumped, the adrenaline ebb crashing like a tidal surge, his laughter reduced to a wheezing echo that mirrored the rain's patter. Reflection pierced the fog. Was this resilience a gift or curse, dooming him to endless defiance while Earth withered? The stakes sharpened. Probe's graze had grazed the cache's edge, enough to see doubt in Vexar's lattice. Challenges mounted. Drones outside hummed closer, scanners sweeping for echoes of the glitch. Krix's optics gleamed with betrayal's spark, whispering sub-vocals to unseen superiors. Then, the chamber shuddered, a low bass thrum from the heavens, vibrating through the ferrocrete like a predator's growl. Vexar's optics snapped to the viewport. Dropship contrails scarred the aurora, inbound and unannounced. Remnant shadows drawn by the laugh's unintended flare. Jax's grin returned, faint but unyielding. The hive had glimpsed the fracture. Now the storm broke. Alarms shrieked through the outpost like lacerated nerves, a cacophony of klaxons and synthetic wails that drowned the rain's murmur into oblivion. The chamber buckled under the dropship's sonic wake, ferrocrete groaning as pressure waves rattled the viewport, sending fissures spiderwebbing across the reinforced pane. Jax Harlan's restraint sparked erratically, mag cuffs flickering from overload, freeing one wrist in a shower of azure arcs that seared his skin like branding irons. The air thickened with ionized fury, the sterile ozone now laced with the acrid bite of scorched circuits and Vexar's surging pheromones, a maelstrom of primal terror that Jax's implant rendered as choking brimstone. Outside, contrails bloomed like venomous flowers against the aurora-veiled sky, remnant silhouettes descending with predatory grace, their hulls humming a dirge of retribution. Vexar surged upright, chitin cracking audibly under the strain, his optics fracturing light into prismatic shards of panic. The hive-mind's clarity, once an unassailable lattice, fractured in his core. This wasn't invasion. It was invocation. The humans' laugh, a siren call that had pierced the veil. Traitor's jest, he snarled, mandibles lashing like scythes, claws slamming a console that birthed a swarm of security drones, spherical sentinels whirring to life, red sensors pulsing like angry eyes. His resolve teetered. The concordance demanded excision of anomalies. Yet doubt gnawed, a hive elder's whisper questioning if humans' chaos was evolution's cruel jest, a resilience born not of strength but inexorable entropy. Krix, the subordinate, hesitated at his flank, mandibles twitching with treacherous glee. His ambition had long chafed under Vexar's shadow, and this breach was Ascension's key. Jax wrenched free, the cuffs released sending jolts up his arm like liquid fire, but he rolled from the chair, snatching a fallen pulse rod from the slab, its grip warm and familiar, humming with stolen power. His chest wound wept fresh ichor beneath the patch, each heartbeat a thunderclap of agony. Yet the laughter's echo lingered in his veins, a synthetic balm forged in remnant cryovaults. Reflection clawed at him amid the frenzy. The psi tactic wasn't gift or glitch. It was a parasite, neural worms from void war labs that disrupted foes while eroding the host, endorphins masking the slow dissolution of self, turning soldiers into ghosts who laughed through unraveling. He'd volunteered, trading sanity for the signal flare, one defiant mirth, and it broadcasted a ghost ping to the fleet, summoning salvation at the cost of his edges blurring, memories fraying like old code. You feel it now, don't you? Jax rasped, voice a gravel whip over the din, leveling the rod at Vexar. That itch in your lattice. My laugh wasn't mockery, it was the hook. Pulled your probe, sent the call. Humanity doesn't break. We bleed into you. Vexar's claws flexed, drones orbiting like carrion birds. But Krix struck first, betrayal uncoiling in a blur of iridescent armor, his pulse claw slashing for Jax's throat with a hiss of superheated air. Jax dodged, the rod cracking against Krix's mandible in a spray of chitin shards, the impact reverberating up his bones like a fault line quake. Foolish subform, Vexar bellowed, yet his command faltered, internal schism manifesting as hesitant pheromones, a sour dilution that sowed doubt in the drone's swarm. Krix whirled, optics blazing with opportunistic fire. The hive evolves without you, Commander. His anomaly is mine to claim. The chamber devolved into melee, Jax weaving through drone fire, bolts scorching walls and violet blooms, his breaths ragged symphonies of pain and spite. He fired the rod point blank, staggering Krix into a console that erupted in sparks, the subordinate crumpling with a wet gurgle, mandibles agape in final surprise. Vexar lunged then, a colossus of calculated fury, claws pinning Jax against the fracturing viewport, rain-lashed spires blurring beyond as dropship's shadows eclipsed the moons. Your resilience is plague, Vexar intoned, breath hot and fetid against Jax's face, optics inches away reflecting the human's fractured grin. We bind worlds in unity. You sow fracture. What victory in dissolution? Jax's free hand clamped Vexar's appendage, the implant surging one final pulse, the laughter's core, broadcasting not just position but a shard of his unraveling mind. Echoes of human wars, unyielding spite digitized into viral code. Victory? It's the only one we've got. You conquer, we endure. Laugh at that. The viewport shattered under the strain, shards exploding inward like crystalline shrapnel, and Vexar recoiled, horrified realization dawning as the code seeded his lattice. A whisper of chaos in the hive's heart. Remnant breachers crashed through the breach, armored figures repelling in zero-G grace, pulse fire clearing the air in staccato brilliance. Jax slumped as hands hauled him free, the rod clattering away, his vision dissolving into static-laced euphoria. The fleet had come, Earth's ghosts answering the call, but as medfoam sealed his wounds and the dropship rocketed skyward, Jax felt the erosion deepen. Memories of lost squad mates flickering like bad hollows, laughter bubbling unbidden, hollow now. Vexar, clawing from the rubble below, watched the ascent, his optics dimming not in defeat, but a nascent wonder at the plague's poetry. In the void's embrace, Jax laughed once more, the sound echoing into uncertainty. Resilience's price, a species that outlasted stars, but at what fragments of self?